Another powerful practice to help you master your mind is to lose interest in thoughts, lose interest in the narrative of the mind. Notice how the mind is narrating experience. Notice how there's an experience of what is, but the mind is narrating about what is. It's telling a story about experience. And when you are so interested in the narration, you actually become disconnected from the experience. You're more connected to the narration of what is instead of what is. You're paying more attention to the narration of what is instead of what is. It's this interest in the narration of the mind that then you feel like you're being pushed and pulled in many directions. See the mind as a drama. It's a juicy drama that you're so interested in. And it's this drama that you're suffering. You're suffering the mind. You're not actually suffering experience. You're suffering the story about what is happening. You're not suffering what is happening. And it's the fact that you're so interested in the story about what is happening that keeps you bound to it. Because you're so interested in the story, you're so immersed in it. You're so immersed in the story, you become identified with the story. You become identified as a character in the story and believe yourself to be that character. But as soon as you simply stop being so interested in the story of the mind, you start feeling like you're retreating or stepping outside of the story. You're no longer pulled into the story. You're no longer immersed in the story because you're simply not so interested in it. It's sort of like reading a book. When you lose interest, you put down the book. You don't continue reading it. You only continue reading a book because you're interested in it. But what is this story about? The story of me. What is it about? It's about problems, overcoming these problems, searching for happiness, that one day you will be happy. But if you look at this story, there's a tremendous amount of suffering. Why is it that we are so interested in this story? Well, one is you haven't realized that you can simply lose interest in it by simply not being so interested in it. You start to put down the story. It feels like you put down the mind. You put down the story. And you notice that every time you put down the story, which is just a metaphor for losing interest in the mind, losing interest in the narration, you notice that every time you put down the story, you experience happiness. You notice that every time you put down the story, there's no problems. You notice that every time you put down the story, there's freedom from suffering. So you could say it's like a practice of losing interest, or a practice of not being so interested in the story. And the more you lose interest in the mind, the more happiness is experienced, the more freedom is experienced, the more peace is experienced, the more love is experienced. You start realizing that everything that you want will never be fulfilled by the story. For the character in the story, it will never find the happiness, the love, the peace, the freedom that it is looking for. It is only by putting down the story that you realize that it is you. That it is you the you that you are experiencing right now the you without a story, that you're experiencing right now. This is what you have always been looking for. And knowing yourself as this is happiness, love, peace, and freedom. Hopefully this helps. I'll see you in the next one.